Here's something that has probably happened to you. You board a plane, you find your seat, you buckle in, and somewhere over the next few hours, something goes wrong. Maybe it's the freezing cold you weren't prepared for. Maybe your neck is wrecked from sleeping at the wrong angle. Maybe you land, exhausted, 2 hours behind schedule, and you're standing in a baggage claim queue wondering, how is it that flying always feels like surviving something? Meanwhile, the guy in the row behind you walked off that same flight looking fine. Rested, organized, not stressed. He wasn't in first class. He just knew things you didn't. That's the whole point of this video. Not vague suggestions. Not the same recycled tips you've read on every travel blog. Real information, backed by real data. The kind that actually changes how your next flight goes. We're going to cover everything from seat choice to airport tricks to why the incognito mode, flight hack almost everyone swears by, is not actually doing what you think. Let's get into it. Window seats look great on paper. The view, the wall to lean on, the sense of having your own little corner of the plane. What nobody tells you is that window seats are measurably colder. At cruising altitude, the temperature outside the aircraft drops to roughly minus 60 degrees Celsius. That cold transfers through the fuselage walls, and the area closest to the windows, your arm, your shoulder, your whole left or right side, feels it first. This isn't just discomfort. On long-haul flights, it's the difference between arriving rested and arriving stiff and irritable. The fix is simple. Bring an extra layer regardless of where you sit, but especially at the window. A hoodie or a thin zip-up takes up almost no space in your bag and completely changes your comfort level at 35,000 feet. One more thing about seat choice. If turbulence bothers you, sit over the wing. The wing is the aircraft's center of gravity, which means it experiences the least movement when the plane hits rough air. It's physics, not preference. The coffee on long-haul flights feels like a comfort thing. You're tired, you want something warm, the flight attendant is offering. Why not? Here's why not. The EPA tested water on 327 commercial aircraft in 2004. Around 15% of those planes had water that was contaminated with coliform bacteria. That number was bad enough that the EPA immediately signed agreements with 12 major airlines, including American Airlines, United, Continental, and JetBlue, requiring them to increase testing and disinfecting of their onboard water tanks. The rules tightened in 2011 with the Aircraft Drinking Water Rule, which required airlines to flush and disinfect water tanks 4 times a year. But a 2026 study by the Center for Food as Medicine and Longevity, which examined 35,674 sample locations across 21 airlines over 3 years, found that 949 locations still tested positive for coliform bacteria and identified 32 separate E. coli violations across the industry. Your tea and coffee are brewed with that water. Most flight attendants already know this, which is why a lot of them quietly stick to sealed bottles. Now you know too. If you had to guess the most bacteria-covered surface on a plane, you'd probably say the toilet. Reasonable guess. Wrong answer. A 2015 study by Travel Math swabbed hard surfaces across multiple commercial flights and found that the tray table carries more than 8 times the bacteria per square inch compared to the lavatory flush button. More than 8 times. The tray table, where you eat your meal, put your phone, rest your arms, had 2,155 colony-forming units of bacteria per square inch. A toilet seat in the average home has around 127. A separate Auburn University study, funded in part by the FAA, tested MRSA and E. coli A157 on common airplane surfaces. MRSA survived for 168 hours, a full week, on the cloth seatback pocket. E. coli lasted 96 hours on armrest material. The seatback pocket is particularly bad because it's porous, almost never sanitized between flights, and passengers use it to store used tissues, sick bags, food wrappers, and occasionally nappies. The solution takes 20 seconds. Wipe your tray table with a disinfectant wipe before you use it. Don't put food directly on the surface, and keep your belongings out of the seatback pocket. That's it. This one has data behind it, and the data is consistent. The U.S. Bureau of Transportation Statistics and the FAA both track delay propagation, the way one delay in the morning compounds into multiple delays throughout the day. It works like this. Each aircraft operates multiple flights per day on a fixed route. If the same plane that flies Dallas to Chicago at 7 a.m. is delayed, it carries that delay into its next flight and the next one after that. By late afternoon, you're not dealing with one problem. You're dealing with the accumulated weight of everything that went wrong since sunrise. Flights departing in the 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. window consistently show higher on-time percentages across the BTS data. Flights departing from 4 p.m. onwards show the highest delay exposure, not because those routes are worse, but because those aircraft have absorbed a full day's worth of disruptions. There's another advantage to morning flights that gets overlooked: weather. Convective weather. Thunderstorms, strong winds, the kind of turbulence that makes drinks spill, typically builds throughout the afternoon. Morning air is generally calmer, which means smoother flying and fewer air traffic control reroutes. Airports are also quieter in the morning. Shorter security lines, faster boarding, less noise in the terminal. If you have any flexibility in when you book, the earliest practical departure wins almost every time. Everyone rushes to book seats near the front. Quicker boarding, quicker exit, closer to the forward galley. It makes instinctive sense. But here's what those people miss. Flight attendants are people. They work long shifts in a tight space, and the rear galley, where they spend most of their time, is where the dynamic is different. If you're friendly and easy to deal with, and you're sitting near the back rather than being one of 40 people demanding attention at the front, small things tend to go your way. Extra snacks. A second drink without having to ask twice. A bit more patience when you need something. It's not a guarantee, but it's a real pattern that frequent flyers and travel writers have noted consistently, and it makes intuitive sense when you think about how those cabins actually operate. The practical bonus: on flights that aren't full, the rear of the plane is often the last section to fill. More chance of having a seat next to you free. More space to spread out. You exit later, yes. But you might actually arrive at the gate more comfortable than the person who fought to sit in row 6. Some of the best travel advice sounds almost too minor to bother with. These 3 fall into that category, but each one has a real payoff. 1. Travel pillow inflation. Most people fully inflate their travel pillow and then wonder why their neck hurts. At cruising altitude, cabin pressure is lower than at sea level, typically equivalent to sitting at around 6,000 to 8,000 feet. Air expands at altitude. A pillow that's firm on the ground becomes overinflated in the air, pushing your head forward or sideways at an unnatural angle. Leave it about 80% full before you board. It'll reach the right firmness at altitude and support your head properly. 2. Pre-order a special meal. Airlines prepare special meals: vegetarian, vegan, kosher, halal, low sodium, diabetic, separately from the standard cabin service. They're loaded onto the plane in a different section, prepared fresher, and served first. You get your food before the main service even begins. This isn't a secret perk for elite members. Anyone can request a special meal when booking or through the airline's website up to 24 hours before departure. 3. Wear long trousers. Given everything covered in Section 3, sitting in shorts on an aircraft seat is something you might want to reconsider. Beyond the hygiene angle, the cabin temperature drops unpredictably, and trousers simply keep you more comfortable across a long flight. 3 things. All of them small. All of them worth doing. 1. Carry a pen. This sounds almost insultingly obvious, but you'd be surprised how often it matters. On international flights, customs and immigration forms are still frequently paper-based. When the flight attendant comes down the aisle asking if anyone has a pen to lend, there are usually 2 people in a cabin of 200 who actually have one. Be one of those 2 people. You'll fill out your form while everyone else is scrambling, and you'll be in front of them at the immigration queue as a result. 2. Sit over the wing if turbulence bothers you. Already mentioned this in Section 1, but it's worth repeating here in the context of preparation. If you're booking and turbulence is a concern, specifically search for seats in the rows directly above the wings. Most airline seat selection tools will show you the aircraft map. The wing section is usually clearly visible. 3. Download the airline's app before you travel. Not so you can check in digitally, though that helps too. The main value is real-time notifications on gate changes and delays, and the ability to rebook flights yourself without queuing at a customer service desk. When flights get canceled, the app is often faster than talking to a human. Two things that cost almost nothing to do and save you real money and real stress. 1. Bring an empty, reusable water bottle. Airport water, whether from a vending machine or a cafe near the gate, is priced for a captive audience. A 500 milliliters bottle routinely costs 3 to 5 times what it would in a supermarket. Water refill stations are available past security in most major airports. Bring an empty bottle through the scanner, fill it up for free, and stay hydrated for the entire flight without paying for the privilege. Over the course of a year of regular travel, this alone saves a meaningful amount. 2. Pack a power bank. Airports have charging points, but they are never where you need them. They're often occupied, and they are sometimes broken. A dead phone at the airport is not just inconvenient. It's a real problem if your boarding pass is on your phone, if you're navigating an unfamiliar terminal, or if your gate changes and you don't get the notification. A mid-sized power bank charges a phone 2 to 3 times and fits in any carry-on or jacket pocket. This section is where the original version of this advice gets something meaningfully wrong, and it's worth being honest about that. The use incognito mode to get cheaper flights tip has been circulating for years. The idea is that airlines track your searches and raise prices when they see you coming back. It sounds plausible. It's also largely a myth. Consumer Reports tested this directly. 372 flight searches across both incognito and regular browsers. The result: 88% of the time, the price was identical in both modes. Incognito showed a cheaper price roughly 7% of the time, but a more expensive 15% of the time. The difference is within the noise of airline dynamic pricing, which changes every few minutes based on seat availability, demand, and booking patterns, not your cookie history. What actually works? Use Google Flights as your primary search tool. It's genuinely the best free option for comparing prices across dates and routes. Set price alerts for routes you're watching. And use the seat map tools available on most airline sites to check for better seat positions before you finalize. Legroom upgrades, exit row seats, and positions away from galleys and toilets can all be spotted and selected for free if you know to look. Airports are designed to extract money from you. They know you're captive, they know you're often stressed, and they price everything accordingly. But if you know where to look, there are genuine ways to avoid the markup. Water refill stations exist in most major international airports. They're usually near restrooms or in quieter gate areas, rather than in the main concourse where the paid options are. With your reusable bottle from Section 8, you're already set. Free Wi-Fi with a time limit can often be extended. The most common method is to clear your browser cookies and reconnect. You'll frequently get another timed session. It doesn't work on every network, but it works often enough to be worth trying. Free charging points are available in most airports, but aren't always obviously signposted. Check under bench seating, along walls near quieter gate areas, and in some airport lounges that don't require membership to enter. Walking an extra 5 minutes to find a working outlet can save you the cost of an airport cafe where you buy a coffee just to sit near a socket. Long layovers are genuinely uncomfortable by default. You're either sitting in the terminal or paying for a lounge. But there are middle options that most travelers don't know about. Several major international airports offer free shower facilities, particularly in hubs like Singapore Changi, Dubai, and Tokyo Narita. This isn't a premium service everywhere, but it's worth specifically checking what your layover airport offers before you assume there's nothing. Arriving at your destination clean and rested after a 10-hour layover is a completely different experience to arriving stiff and unshowered. Airline lounges are also not exclusively the territory of business class travelers. During significant delays, airlines will sometimes offer lounge access to economy passengers who ask politely at the service desk. This doesn't always work, and it depends on the airline, the delay length, and how busy the lounge is. But it costs you nothing to ask, and asking calmly and pleasantly makes a difference. Stressed travelers who demand things get told no. Reasonable people who ask get a much better outcome more often than you'd expect. This is one of the more underused options in travel, and it's genuinely good value. Several major airlines and airports offer free city tours for passengers with long layovers, typically 6 hours or more. These aren't obscure, hard-to-find programs. They're official offerings that airlines and tourism boards run specifically to encourage passengers to experience the city rather than just sit in the terminal. Turkish Airlines has offered free layover tours of Istanbul for years, covering transport, a guide, and entry to key sites. Singapore's Changi Airport has historically coordinated free city tours. Abu Dhabi's airport has offered similar options. The way to access these is straightforward. Check your airline's website before travel for layover tourism programs, or search the layover airport's official site for transit tour information. The requirement is usually just that you have a confirmed onward boarding pass and your passport is eligible for transit without a separate visa. If you have a long layover in a city you've never visited, spending 2 hours of it outside the airport for free is almost always better than spending all of it in a gate chair. Arriving in a new country without data is a surprisingly unpleasant experience in 2026. You can't call a car, you can't navigate, you can't contact whoever is meeting you. And airport SIM kiosks are priced for people who have no other option. Some airports offer free SIM cards with basic data for arriving passengers. This is more common in emerging markets and in countries that have made tourism infrastructure a deliberate investment, parts of Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and a handful of African cities. It's worth a quick search for your specific destination before you land. The more reliable approach. Buy a local SIM from a convenience store or mobile shop outside the airport rather than inside it. The same SIM that costs $15 at the airport often costs $5 in a shop 10 minutes away. If you're landing somewhere you'll be for more than a day or two, the effort is almost always worth it. For short trips, international eSIM options through services like Airalo have become genuinely competitive and can be activated before you even board. The moment you exit arrivals, the costs start accumulating again. But some of those costs are avoidable. A number of cities provide genuinely free or heavily subsidized transport from the airport to the city center, not as a travel hack, but as official policy. Hong Kong's MTR connects the airport to the city quickly and cheaply. Copenhagen's metro runs directly to the city center and is significantly cheaper than a taxi. Athens introduced free metro connections to its airport. Checking the official airport transport page for your destination before you land takes 2 minutes and can save you $30 to $50 in taxi fees. On luggage, some airports and major hubs provide complimentary trolleys, others charge for them. If you know in advance, you can pack in a way that means you don't need one at all. The broader point is this. Airports make money partly because most passengers are operating on autopilot. Stressed, tired, and defaulting to the most convenient option regardless of price. A small amount of research before you travel puts you in a different category entirely. None of this is complicated. That's the thing. Flying is already a logistical feat. You're boarding a metal tube that weighs hundreds of thousands of kilograms and being transported across the planet at 900 kilometers per hour. The actual magic has already happened before you even sit down. The part that makes it miserable is nearly always avoidable. The wrong seat, the contaminated coffee, the tray table you didn't wipe, the 6 p.m. flight you booked because the morning one seemed inconvenient, the fact that you didn't have a pen when you needed one. Every tip in this video is something you can action on your next trip. Most of them cost nothing. All of them are backed by real data, not travel blog folklore. If something here changed how you think about flying, drop it in the comments. And if you want more like this, subscribe. There's plenty more where this came from.